Gallaudet University is the world's only university specifically designed to serve the needs of deaf, hard of hearing, and deafblind students.
You walk on campus and immediately everything changes from a sound-based world on the outside to a visual base. Every freshman that I see coming onto campus, they are thrilled to be in an environment where everything is accessible and the playing field is level. For the first time in their lives, they're able to come in and socialize, learn, study, interact with their peers in a community that they will never see again outside of there.
But in the fall of 2000, as Gallaudet students excitedly begin their new school year, they learned their tailor-made campus isn't the safe haven they thought it was. Just before 9 p.m. on September 28th, Gallaudet freshman Joseph Mesa Jr. knocks on his RA's door. Mesa says he can't get a hold of his friend and fellow Cogswell Hall dorm mate, 19-year-old Eric Plunkett. Using a master key, the RA opens Eric's locked door. Inside, they find Eric dead in a pool of blood.
I got the message that there was an emergency and involved a student had died. I thought maybe it was a suicide or some other kind of tragic accident. But when I got to campus, I was informed that he had been murdered. I was completely aghast.
Eric's mother, Kathleen Cornels, and his stepfather, Chris, are inconsolable.
And I remember Kathleen just wailing at that point. I took my baby to college and he's never coming home. I took my baby to college and he's never coming home. I took my baby to college and he's never coming home. What can I say to my wife who just learned that her one and only son is dead?
So when Eric was about 3 months old, he wasn't hearing. And he had congenital rubella. So a lot of his growing up was focused on understanding what he needed and getting him into a program called Infant Hearing, where they started working with him with sign language and fit him for hearing aids before he was even a year old. From a very young age, he could sign, he could read lips, and he would write notes, he would mime. He was very good at getting people to understand what he was trying to communicate.
Eric wanted to be a psychiatrist. He was always helping people or assisting people. So he had a generous heart.
That he had a lot of friends and that he, had a family that loved him. He was very excited to go to Gallaudet, and when his acceptance letter arrived at home, he opened the letter and he was jumping up and down and screaming. He was so excited that he was accepted. He wanted to experience life. The last thing he said to me was, "Don't worry, Mom, I'll be fine."
Weeks pass, then months. With no new developments in the case, Gallaudet remains on edge.
I don't really have a lot of information to share except to say that we are coping with the situation as best we can, maintaining and ensuring strong safety for students here. I became increasingly frustrated. We lost confidence that the case would ever be solved. We didn't know who to trust anymore.
At the end of a semester, There is a huge sigh of relief from the faculty and the students both. We made it through a difficult semester. Everybody would go back home where they felt safe, and we were going to have a great big time out.
We all went home for the holidays. We spent time with our families. Things seemed to get back to our normal rhythm. And then we came back to school.
With the start of a new year, students returned to Gallaudet with a restored sense of calm. But if these poor souls think their troubles are behind them, they're wrong.
I got a call in the middle of the night. My husband answered it at 2 a.m. He came to tell me that another student had been found in the dorm murdered. I thought, what is wrong with Gallaudet University? What is happening here? I drove back to the dorm. The whole scene is playing out again. Another murdered student.
The victim is 19-year-old Ben Varner. He was discovered lying face up in a pool of blood on his dorm room floor.
I learned that the body had been found because a student pulled a fire alarm, which required all the students to exit the dorm. And then the resident assistant went through the dorm and checked all the rooms. It felt like almost like the end of the world because another murder occurred and we hadn't solved the first one.
And that threw the whole community, myself included, into a tailspin because there's still someone lurking around and they're killing deaf people. And what are we going to do?
The MPD assigns veteran homicide detective Pamela Reed to the case.
We had a very violent crime scene. His dorm was not ransacked, but obviously there was a struggle. There was blood patterns all up walls, multiple stab wounds and cutting wounds. He was cut across his throat as well. We could see blood drops going down the hallway and a very, very faint outline of a bloody shoe print. This really remarkable gal came out from the lab. That was her expertise, with shoes. When she was looking at the footprint with me, and she goes, I might be able to spray that and pop up the coloring so that we can have a discernible tread print. And I'm like, go for it. And she sprayed a little compound on it, and it just came to life.
The specialist matches the tread to a size 11 Nike Air Max sneaker. If Reed can find the Nike's owner, she's got her killer. After 5 days of sniffing around, MPD's financial fraud team catches a whiff of potential suspicious activity in Ben's bank account. A $650 check had been cashed on Friday, February 2nd, the day after Ben was murdered.
When we pulled up the check, it was made out to Joseph Mesa. I say, where does Joseph Mesa live? Oh, pull up his account. He's a Gallaudet student.
And when Detective Reed thinks about it, she remembers the name. Joseph Mesa is the friend who originally reported Eric Plunkett missing to the RA, right before he showed up dead. Reed brings Mesa in to ask why he had a check from Ben Varner.
He denied it, which was great for me because I'm already drafting the search warrant in my head. Because remember, I got a shoe print.
2 hours later, Reed has the search warrant, and it doesn't take long to find a pair of size 11 Nike Air Max sneakers in Mesa's closet, just like the ones that left the bloody prints outside Ben Varner's dorm room. Then the DNA results come back. The blood samples from Ben Varner's crime scene are a perfect match to Joseph Mesa. There's no question he killed his fellow classmate. Reed sits back down with the 20-year-old.
He kind of knew it was all closing in. When he saw the noose was tightening, he gave it all up.
And at the end of his lengthy confession, he told the police, one other thing I should tell you. And they said, what's that? And he said, I killed Eric Plunkett too.
On May 3rd, 2002, Joseph Mesa is on trial. He claims temporary insanity. He says he saw a vision of two black-gloved hands telling him in sign language to kill his classmates.
I was cross-examining him, and I asked him whether the black gloves had compelled him to cash the check and use the ATM of Ben Varner, which was a little bit hard for him to answer. So he said, no jury wants to be hoodwinked by someone who is going to fake an insanity defense.
On May 21st, 2002, Joseph Mesa is found guilty and sentenced to 2 life terms without the possibility of parole. The judge considers the 20-year-old a highly dangerous threat to anyone around him, including other inmates, so Mesa is shipped off to a maximum security prison.
I wanted to understand why Joseph Mesa killed Eric and Ben. They're all in the same world and in the community with the same goals. Why would he want to kill them? I wrote him and asked him if I could meet him, and he agreed. I asked him, why did you kill these 2 men? He said, I don't know, they were my friends. I said, what do you mean they were your friends? He said, I know this doesn't make any sense, but it was like I had the angel on one shoulder and a devil on another shoulder. I don't know why I did it, but I did it. But when I asked him if he hadn't gotten caught, would he have killed somebody else? He kind of shrugged and he said, probably.
More than 2 decades later, a brutal lesson still echoes silently through the hallowed halls of Gallaudet. Even here, no one is safe from the dark side of humanity.
The deaf community will never forget the murders. For a long time, we lived with the privilege of assuming that there could never be a murderer within our community. And now we know that it can, and it did. We lost our innocence. The murders changed Gallaudet forever. We're not an oasis. We're not an island in the middle of the city. We are part of Washington, D.C., and all of the good and bad things that happen here.